Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are here on the ground in Jackson County, North Carolina, Jackson County Airport, an elevation of 2,857 feet, thanks to this very helpful sign. And today we're doing a bit of a Freeware flight where I'm going to be taking a trip, a multi-hop trip between 3 Freeware airports in western North Carolina that I dug up on flightsim.to. This is the first one here, Jackson County Airport. The code is going to be 24 Alpha. This is by Windhover. He has a bunch of these airports and they're pretty good. We're going to walk through the hangar real quick just to see, because we've got some airplanes in here that are pretty nice. You have a Piper and you've got a Cessna 152. Plenty of room in here too. My T6 wouldn't fit out the doors, but I think the Aero might. I'm not sure. And we'll take a walk out onto the flight line, all the details custom. I have had an issue here with the runway markings not showing up. I'm not sure why it's happening, but it's not enough to ruin my takeoff today. So yeah, really good. I'll link all these mods in the description below. But we're going to be taking our trusty Turbo Aero 3, November 48427, out about half an hour north to another Windhover airport, NC06 Elk River. After we hit Elk River, we're going to jump up to Uniform Kilo Foxtrot, Wilkes County Regional Airport, which will be a little bit bigger and not on the side of a mountain. So that'll be fun. Looks like we got a nice clear day today. And yeah, should be a good day to fly across the mountains. Okay, so our flight plan for today is blisteringly simple. We're taking off here from 24 Alpha and heading up to NC06, going direct. Now, the only thing to consider, we're flying realistically general aviation. We need to be careful of the controlled airspace around AVL, Asheville Airport. That's international. I don't know if it's an international airport, but it's a big airport relatively with big jets coming and going. So we just got to stay outside of their airspace, and we should be fine. SkyVector has it as being between 62,000 and 43, or 6,200 and 4,300 is the class Charlie. So we can be below 4,300 or above 6,200. Shouldn't be a problem, and we're off to the north anyway. Okay, so we're too far to tune the Asheville-atus. I'll just look it up. METAR is saying wind calm, 10 miles visibility, temperature's 10 degrees C, altimeter 3039. So let's knock that up to about 303 and change. So our plan for departure today, we're going to be heading up to 1-5 up at the high end of the hill. We'll roll downhill and take off that way out towards where we are now. So we'll have to back taxi on the runway. And we'll turn north and yeah, just follow the magenta line until we hit Elk River. Runways at Elk River, we have 30 and 12. We can go either way, but Windhover recommends 112 to be, or 112, 12 to be preferred for landing. Challenging terrain around it, so it's good that we have a nice clear flight, and we're going to be in no hurry. So we'll enter the pattern, and if we don't like what we see, we'll go around and do a couple laps. Alright, no one's waiting for us, so let's do our run up. We're going to put our brakes on, bring the throttle forward, and we'll try and set 2,000 RPM Alright, so no one's waiting on to get onto the runway, so we're going to go ahead and do a run up. We're going to go advanced throttle to about 20,000 RPM. And let's run our checks. So we're watching RPM. Let's let it stabilize. About 18.5. Now magneto to left. We get a drop. Back to right. And we get it back. Now back to right. Let it stabilize right about 16,000. And get it back to both. Alright, now we're just going to wipe the propeller. And we're doing alright. Alright, we're going to taxi on up to the runway, we're going to backtrack, and yeah, we'll get on our way. Jackson County traffic, Arrow 48427 is taking runway 15 for a north departure, Jackson County. Jackson County traffic, Arrow 48427 is clear of runway 15, departing to the north, Jackson County. Alright, so we are off and in the air on our way. We're going to have to watch the mountains off to our left and right as we climb out. We're going to maintain this power setting until we basically clear them, and then we'll throttle back a little bit. Flight time today going to be about a half hour, 35 minutes. Weather is absolutely perfect. We're just looking good. Alright, so we're going to run our climb checklist real quick. We're going to take our fuel pump off. Make sure still full rich. Our gear arm, we should be in the mid position. We're looking at about 33 inches of manifold pressure. And we'll try to climb out at about 104 knots for best climb. We're climbing out through 5,400 feet right now. We'll aim for probably around 6,000 or so, and just keep an eye on the terrain. So a little bit of FlightSim.to. FlightSim.to, for those who don't know, is really I think it's established itself as probably the premier place for freeware mods and sceneries and aircraft liveries and stuff like that. So if you want a custom paint job for your airplane, that's really the first place I look. Scenery, there's tons of free scenery out there. I use several American international airports. And yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff there. Also, some mods like the Vertigo and Got Gravel mods are also hosted there. So definitely check it out. And they do have some payware stuff. I have bought one thing through them, and that was the GBR3, which is like a stunt aerobatics plane. Pretty good, and I had a good experience. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's definitely worth a look if you're looking for something to spice up, like we're doing today, flying between a few different kind of handmade airports. Though I'm hesitant to put Freeware flight in the title because we're obviously flying the Piper Arrow, and that is very much not free. Alright, we're going to cruise on out to Elk River. Sit back, enjoy the cruise, and we'll catch up with you when we're shooting this little approach. Alright, so we're about 30 miles to the south of NC06, Elk River. Now, we're just going to take a quick look at the chart and make sure we understand what's going to be coming up around that area as we get it's a little bit bumpy. So, Elk River, this private strip up here, elevation 3,468 feet. Now, there's the first thing we're looking at here, 5,520 foot peak. That's going to be our first consideration. So we've got some high peaks around us. Out to the east, we also have about a 6,000 foot peak. So as we're doing this approach, we'll have to be thinking about that terrain around us. There's another one, 5,587 over here. So we'll be kind of in that valley area, and we'll have to keep an eye on terrain very closely. It's a challenging approach. 1-2 is going to be the one we are going after. So we should be coming in. We'll be coming in. We'll probably turn off to our left and then line up for an approach on into runway 12. And again, we'll take our time. All right, so we are getting close to Elk River now. 6.2 miles. It should be right off our nose. I believe it's right here. We're going to do a low pass and just make sure. We'll low pass and come out to the left, and then we'll loop back around and just make straight in. Okay, so definitely wasn't correct about where the runway was. But here we have it. So it's nestled nicely in this valley. So again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to fly up the valley, and then we'll make a little bit of a loop and come back straight in for runway 12. Elk River traffic, Arrow 48427 is over the field, coming into land, runway 12. We're going to come straight in, Elk River. Alright, and once we clear this terrain on our right, we'll start thinking about getting all set for landing. Now on approach, we're going to swip our tank over to the right tank, which is going to be a little bit fuller. Our landing lights are on. Aux fuel pump is going to go to low. Props full forward, mixture full rich. We are still, it's still showing 3039 up in Elizabethtown, so we're going to keep that for now. We're going to be shooting to reduce our speed down to 110 knots at about, once we get about 4 or 5 miles when we loop back around. At that point, we'll go flaps 2, 25 degrees, and bring the speed down to 85 knots. Out to the right a little bit. And the other thing we could do is help ourselves turn our HSI until it's heading 120. Alright, so we're going to begin a decent turn to the left, bring it around and make sure we're maintaining altitude. Sitting at 4,400 feet or so. If I believe the altimeter and live weather settings. Which, not sure. Elk River traffic, Arrow 427 is making straight in for runway 12, full stop, Elk River. Airport's tough to see. It's a tough approach, so but we're going to just come back on the power a little bit, start bringing the speed back. And just follow the valley up. Weren't kidding about a challenging approach. So we'll bring the gear down, give it a little more power to help us maintain altitude, and go flaps 2. See the runway, we may have to do a little bit of a small turn on final. Once we clear this hill, let's just keep letting the speed come back. We're aiming for 85 knots. Which will be our approach speed, and we'll give it the rest of the flaps. Power, maintain altitude. All right. Elk River traffic, Arrow 427, short final, runway 12, full stop, Elk River. It was a little bit shorter final than I wanted. And just keep speed up to clear these trees. A bit low, but we're actually looking pretty good and feeling pretty good. Just hold Alright everybody, welcome to Elk River Airport. We're going to taxi on up to find some parking, I think, up here. Then we will punch in the next leg. Alright, welcome to Elk River, everybody. That's a pretty fun approach, even in relatively calm weather like today. The hills are really, yeah, the chart really undersells it, I think. The challenge of that one. So that's really fun. Now, this is Elk River NC06. It's another wind hover airport. We've got some nice vehicles here. Nicely detailed hangars. And just great scenery. This is actually a really fun, I think, underrated place to fly. So we're going to take a walk around. We're going to grab some... We'll grab a snack or something. And then we'll get the engine back on and head the rest of the way to Wilkes County. Elk River traffic, Arrow 427 is taking runway 30. We're going to be departing to the north, Elk River. Alright, so there we go. We're climbing out Elk River, and we're going to make a right-hand turn as soon as we clear these hills and head for our Magenta Line and Wilkesboro. A fun, challenging approach. I really like these small airports. I think they're really great to fly into, and again, there's tons of them available for free on flightsim.to. These first two that we've been to are by Wind Hover. And yeah, it adds a lot to flying these small airplanes. We saw that with Why You Should Fly the Savage Carbon too. There's just a lot of great resources for these kinds of airports. And if you want to try making one, that's, I think, a really great starting point too. If you're interested in scenery development or anything like that, an airport like that is really a pretty manageable size for a first project. All right, we're going to come right and keep climbing out. So fun, challenging approach. Wilkesboro should be fairly straightforward. It's a larger regional airport. near the Wilkesboro Speedway, and we have the custom scenery for that as well. So we'll fly over and we'll take a look as we dive into Wilkesboro. Terrain should be less and less of a factor as we go. Alright, we're about 17 miles from UKF, Wilkesboro Airport. We're going to begin our descent coming back on the power a fair amount. It's about 20-25 inches of manifold pressure. We've cleared the worst of the terrain. Winds are still calm, 10 surface miles. So, we're going to come in on runway 1. That way we are making our approach over the lower terrain over here. We're not worried about the mountains off to our left. Field is at 1,300 feet. So we're going to descend to about 4,000 feet. And we'll probably bring it down to 2,000 feet after that. We got the HSI programmed in. That's going to be runway heading. We're coming in basically perpendicular. And in the absence of any other traffic, we may come in on just come in on the right base or on the left base. Runway 1. And we had some fog pop in. Oh, here's hoping we don't have a repeat of Colorado. But we shouldn't. It should be warm enough. Just in case, I'm going to turn on alternate air. Descending through 5,000 feet now. About 12 miles from the airport. Alright, so we got the field in sight. We're at about, losing a little bit of altitude, 2,000 feet. Let's hit the trim wheel again. We'll get ready to turn. We'll be on about a 5-mile final for runway 1. So now we'll start thinking about bringing back the speed so we can get the gear down. And just start to begin. Thinking about our turn to final. Just trying to use trim to help me. Wilkes County traffic, Arrow 427 is on a 5-mile final land, runway 1, full stop, Wilkes County. We're turning a little bit early, but that's okay. We bring our gear down, give our first knock of flaps. And shoot for approach speed 85 knots. Right before landing, mixture is full rich, props full forward. We've got our lights on, our fuel pump is on. We are still on the right tank and we're going to leave it that way. down so I'm not using as much back pressure. And come off in the power so we can just descend a little bit quicker. I think I got one red, one white. So that's okay. Now we're going to try and hold 85 knots for about 2 miles so we can go last knock of flaps. Alright, so we are full flaps. Fully configured for landing. And the approach is looking pretty good. This approach is a little less dramatic than Elk River. And I'm pulling back a little much. Just ever so slightly off to the left. All right, looking good, feeling good. And there's the threshold. Little left to center. Holding the flare, let the nose come down. And apply some brakes. Welcome to Wilkes County, everybody. We're going to exit off to the left here and taxi over to the hangars. Next taxiway that permits us. All right, welcome to the ground here in Wilkes County Airport. This airport is by user Studio CD on flightsim.to. Again, I'll link all this in the description below. But it's really nice. I always like it when fences are added. That's something that's often missing from the default airports. But it just makes a big difference. And all the hangars look really great. We're here in front of American Aviation Inc. I assume that's some kind of FBO, but I'm not sure. And we get some avgas and all good stuff. Really nice. Again, it's these small touches, which go a really long way for an airport like this. Again, not a complex airport, not a really huge airport. This would be a big general aviation airport. And I think it's a great, I think it's really a nice companion to some of the other airports we flew into today. You could base out of here. You could do a bunch of different stuff. It's not as exciting necessarily an approach as Elk River, but it's, again, a much more practical airport if you're doing everyday operations. So yeah, really a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this trip. I did this, sat down one night and just did it. And I really like flying between these airports, and it's just kind of a cool area to explore. So if you haven't flown out in kind of the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, I recommend it. It's a fun place to explore for general aviation, and there are a lot of good airports on flightsim.to that will help support that. We've shown off a few here today and had a good flight. So if you want to see anything else, if you have any other ideas for your sceneries or anything that you enjoy using and want us to check out, want us to fly to, have a pair that we want to put together, drop in the comment section below. As always, love to hear your suggestions. And again, yeah, this is just a fun way to showcase a few different freeware authors in the community and do a fun little road trip. So that's it for VFR tonight, everybody. Take it easy.